course, the NBL live game and also discuss the other games. Welcome, guys. I know you both one house. How are you both doing? Hope you're both well.
We're doing well, Chris. I'm doing well. How you doing, Brendan?
All good, thanks. All good.
I'm really looking forward to this one. Before we are on air, both these guys are full of laughs and humour, and I feel a bit underdressed. Both these guys have prepared themselves like models ready, and I felt like in the middle of my messy hair and post-work, and they both obviously got their respective kits on. I thought I'd better start about you guys. Obviously, you both live together, you both play together. When did you first get to know each other, and sort of how has that friendship blossomed from there?
There you go, this one.
Yeah. Basically, Tom was a bit of a legend around the South Coast before I actually met him. So my first half season that I was playing for Worthing, had people like Don Baker, Joe Carter, were all like, "Oh, this guy Tom Ward's coming back to the area. He's amazing. He's incredible." And heard story after story about how he's an elite baller, all this kind of stuff. First session he came to, again, scored on me probably a dozen times. And then we were the only people that weren't actually from Worthing on the team at the time. So we were both getting the train back to Brighton, just obviously just
Max,
chatting, chilling.
Max as well.
Oh yeah, Max at the time as well. We were just chatting and chilling, and then basically just obviously with the drives, with the train back and forth, them being teammates for the season after that. We just started hanging out, starting to get to know each other.
And Tom, when did you? Oh, yeah, Sharon. No, you carry on, mate.
No, I was going to say, I think those guys probably hyped me up a little too much. There was probably a bit of an air of disappointment when I did arrive and could barely touch the backboard. But hey-oh, as is life.
And what's it like living with each other, sort of both being basketball players, now on the opposite teams? What was that like when you first sort of moved in together?
Yeah, I mean, when we first moved in together, we were on the same team. So at least logistically, anyway, it worked pretty well. Obviously, going to practice together and discussing practice and games afterwards. Obviously, since Brendan made the switch, I mean, practice times are different and whatnot. But yeah, we still kind of arrive home at a similar sort of time and reflect on our individual practices. And I'd say, when we play against each other, obviously we have a good chat about the games afterwards when we get back. Brendan, more recently, or since moving to Solent, in higher spirits than I am during those chats. But nevertheless, yeah, good to obviously reflect on basketball when we're together.
And obviously, live with each other. Does it sort of take time for it to sort of get back to like normal talk? I know for both of you, both quite excited. Was Brendan quite excited for a few days, or then it just sort of moves on to the casual stuff? Or how long does it become before it's like you've forgotten about it and you're just back to being two housemates, both basketball players?
I mean, we're always going to be friends first, so it's cool that we can obviously play a couple of games a season against each other. That's really nice. There's no hard feelings. I'm not particularly going to trash talk Tom any more than I would anyone else, let's say. But yeah, we come back, we'll laugh and joke about it, we'll talk about some things, and then there's other things in life that you talk to your regular friends about as well. So it's just it's a unique situation, but it's we don't make it awkward or anything around games or anything like that.
Yeah, I would say, like, I went with Brendan the first time we played against each other when he was in a Solent uniform. I went with him to the game and went back together, but that, for me, that felt a little too much, because we lost that game. It was pretty tough to get in the car and sit there in that kind of situation. So once we get back to the house, it's all good. But I think nowadays going separately, just in case, I don't think we've ever trash talk each other. If anything, it'd be pretty light-hearted stuff. Might be asking, what we're ordering for dinner later and whatnot. But no, definitely no intense trash talk between us. But yeah, we go to games. We do go to games separately now.
And I say I appreciate that. It's great to see that basketball's brought you guys together, and you're still sort of great friends, as well as competitors on the court. obviously we've got the big game with you guys coming up. I'd love to get a bit of insight on training. I know you're both very competitive sides, speak to other players. First, Brendan, the competitive nature in training and competitive nature side, how does that come across in training and other interactions with the team? Is it just in training, or do you have like one-on-one exercises? What other ways are you guys adding to that competitive edge?
So we've obviously our games for the last couple of weeks have been cancelled, as with most teams have been affected by coronavirus and isolations, all the rest of it. We've done a very good job, or Matt's done a very good job of keeping us in game-like scenarios in training. So particularly over the last couple of weeks, I've noticed we've had the scoreboard ticking over. We'll have the score up at, let's say like 85, 90 points, 2 minutes left, and we're just going to play. We need to get used to even little things like hearing the buzzer go, what plays we're going to run as the next set, where's our advantage down the other end of the floor, what we're going to take away from the other team. We can apply those same thoughts, those same processes at training as we can for the game to stay fresh. So, I've definitely noticed the last couple of weeks we've definitely been as game realistic as possible, while still building in our layers and, of course, still scouting for, of course, this weekend, Worthing.
And Andre was saying, but sometimes you guys pair off with a similar player to yourself, do like shooting drills. Who do you sort of pair off with, and what's the head-to-head like with that sort of personal player?
We all mix with each other. I wouldn't say there's any favourites or any sort of main partners. The one person I do like pairing up with is Chris. Chris is an elite shooter. I want to get better at shooting, continue to develop my shot, so I'm going to pair with him in any shooting drills. It's a no-brainer, really. You pick the best person at what you're trying to get better at, and then that's your target. Whether he feels the same about me being his partner, you have to ask him, but at least I get something out of it.
And Tom, same for you guys. Like you guys have also had that experience of either games being chopped because of COVID. But how's your team sort of kept up that competitive spirit in training, and what sort of things are you guys doing to sort of keep yourself ready for the games?
To be honest, we play a lot. Like you said, COVID could cut short the season at any time. It could get a game cancelled that weekend. So obviously we need to stay in shape. So we just go up and down a lot. And from a competitive standpoint, we've got a lot of people on the team who've played at high levels and have that competitive drive. So there's always 2 or 3 people ensuring that standard is set and that we're playing as hard as we can. You've seen how we play. It's a pretty loose style of basketball. So I'd say practice kind of reflects that. We kind of get in there, get some shots up, and then we go at it. And whether that's good or bad, it comes to the games, and that's the kind of style we play. So I guess the practice kind of suits that.
And obviously, in terms of training, obviously, congratulations to having Hildreth being called up to GB squad. What was the response to having him back this week? Because he's obviously been away with the international squad. And what was his experience that he shared with you from that in terms of what he learned?
Oh, he had a great experience. In particular, he shouted out Ben Mockford, Teddy, and Dan, who really took him under his wing. Took him under their wing. Ben obviously being a Sussex boy as well. I'm sure there was some kind of sentiment there where it was great to see another Sussex kid come through and do what he's doing. But just being around those guys and how professional they are and the setup, I think, was really eye-opening for him. And he came back in his GB socks and his GB shirt. He's obviously pretty pumped. See if I can get my hands on those socks at some point if he's watching. Maybe tomorrow, bring those socks. But yeah, he was buzzing.
That's great to hear. And obviously, when we look at games, it's always good to look back at past games. And obviously, you've both been involved in a lot of Solent and Worthing games between yourselves. Tom, what have been some of your highlights or favourite memories of some of those matchups with Solent?
I can't remember how many we've won. I can remember one that we won, and that was when we had Nick Lewis and he went off. And I suppose I felt pretty good at the end when Solent fumbled the ball and we won that one. Since then, bit more disappointment than celebration. But you never know, and we've got a game tomorrow, and anything can happen. So yeah, but I'd say that's probably best memory. I think we've beaten Solent a couple of times in the last 3 years, and yeah, I remember that one in particular.
Yeah, I think the season before Nick Lewis, I think you guys just beat him in the trophy, and then I think maybe a couple of seasons before you beat them in the league. Brendan, for yourself, what? Sorry, apologies. What are some of your highlights you had in terms of playing for Stoner and playing for Worthing, both sides? What's some of your takeaway memories when you look back at those games?
I think I've definitely got more playing for Solent than on the Worthing side, just due to, of course, outcomes of those games. The one that Tom mentioned, the early league game when I was playing for Worthing, I think it's only a 1 point game in the end. That turnover that I think Zaire might have picked up. On the other end, my first game actually back at Worthing Les Centre when I joined Solent, it was like our second or third game of the season. Everyone was really welcoming back. Of course, all the fans there. That's probably one of the best fan bases in the country. Still very warm, still very welcoming. Didn't boo, thankfully. And I remember that game because on the way there, me and Tom were actually joking and saying, as long as both of us play well, and then we both said we thought Solent would win, then that's a fair outcome. Close score, but Solent win. And I think Tom had 20. He scored like 3 mid-range pull-ups on me, which I knew he was going to do, but still made them. I think I had about 15, and then we won by, I think, just under 20 in the end. That's a game I definitely remember. It was nice to be back. Weird sitting on a different bench. Weird not having some familiar faces as teammates. But yeah, that was a nice one. And then obviously in the same season we had the trophy game as well, the quarterfinal I think it was. Again, another great game that in front of a sold out crowd, many great performances from individuals, and I think that was really a showcase game for what our league was capable of. It was a BBL competition, but you've got 2 South Coast teams, rival teams, lots of British talent on the floor, as well as, of course, traveling in on our side, on the American side. I think those 2 probably are the main 2 that I would say stick out.
And that was a real shame.
Yeah,
it was a real shame, I think, that we met each other in that round. It would have been great for us both to play another BBL side and have the opportunity to try and cause another upset. But obviously, Solent went on to do that in the next few rounds. So representing the NBL won.
I say both teams did a really good job representing NBL. Like you say, you paired in quarterfinals. You both knocked out BBL teams to play each other. And obviously a credit to Worthing fans for making part of the atmosphere and selling out every game they played there. For you, Tom, when you played earlier on in the season in front of an empty crowd, how did that feel as a team coming out to that? What was some of the thoughts or conversation you had with the guys?
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably put... I don't know. It was very strange. It was very strange. I think as a player on any team, you should be able to get yourself hyped up for a matchup. Get your teammates hyped up. So obviously, whether you're playing in front of a crowd or not, and ultimately that would have been a Solent home crowd anyway, so it would have been against us. But at the same time, there's nothing like playing in an atmosphere like that where you've got people cheering both sides and you've got the kind of the energy of the crowd there. So it was very strange. But I think, again, once you're on the court and you're locked in, you're obviously engaged with what you're doing, with your assignments and what you're doing offensively, and you got to just crack on. But yeah, very strange. And for us, we obviously haven't had a home game yet this season. And when we do have a home game, it's gonna feel weird not being in the place that we've called home for the club's last 30 years or however long it's been.
And indeed, and obviously the club have got the new backboard now with the crowdfunding effect, so hopefully the facilities will look good when you finally in it. Brendan, anything you want to add? Anything you wanted to add in terms of how it was playing without fans early on in the season?
Yeah, it's definitely not been the same. Again, Solent, Worthing, South Coast has great fan bases, and they make they make us play, and just it takes it to another level. You know, it's great having your teammates clapping you along, but there's moments where you want that crowd momentum. It almost gives you 5-10 extra points a game. Might make my knees feel better and be able to get almost a dunk, you know, once a game as well. There is a different energy that comes with having them there. So it'll be nice to have them back. I think it's start of the new year in January. I think we've got them coming back, which will be great. Yeah, that's all I can say really. We miss them, and it's definitely a different environment to get used to.
And you both sort of touched upon how you have like people in your own camp who are hype men, and I imagine with the derby, certain players maybe more hyped because it's a derby game. And I'd love to get your opinion, Tom, on who are the guys in Worthing who maybe have that extra energy when it's Solent, and maybe how do they get that across to you guys in the locker room or in training the week? Are the guys who sort of almost marking the calendar when they've got to play Solent, or is it just another game to you guys?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, I think for Zaire, obviously being owner of the club, you know, star player, all those things, I think this matchup always means a lot to him. And, you know, there's been some very tense matchups with Solent over the last 3-4 years. So I know for him, you know, it's something he takes a lot of pride in. As far as energy goes, you know, Ishmael is the energy guy. Obviously, you know that you've had him on the podcast a lot, and you've seen him play, and he brings that positive energy to the locker room and to the court. But I think for all of us, you know, I mean, playing against Solent means a lot, and I think when you have a game day experience where you go to somewhere that's a good facility, and you know you're going to be playing against a good team, and all of those things kind of make you grateful for playing in this league. And obviously the Solent matchup is the one that ticks all of those boxes. So if you can't get hyped for tomorrow's matchup, you shouldn't really be playing. You know, I think everyone is going to be there and kind of ready to get after it.
And say for you, Brendan, are there specific guys in the camp? I know there's a lot of guys who played Solent for quite a few years. Who's sort of like in the change room before those games most G'd up? What's some of the things they say to get you guys going in these sort of big games where you play sort of where bragging rights on the table or the stakes are high?
I don't think there's one person that really, there's no motivational speech that's delivered before we go out onto the court, let's say. I think it's more everyone just being loose and relaxed, really. I think it's more being fun, of course, feeling grateful that we can still even be playing basketball for the last 2 months. You know, most of the world or most of the country is shut down. So, you know, let's just pause and enjoy these moments. I think Luke's definitely one of them, Luke Basumbru, whether it's his sort of music taste, whether he's, you know, dancing around, being goofy, he's definitely one. Travis is loud. You know, you hear him coming into the sports hall when he's still in the car park. You know, he's going to make sure he's going to come around and, you know, shout in your face for a quick second. He's going to probably punch you in the chest to make sure you're revved up. And he does, you know, he goes straight out on the court and does the same thing to the opponents as well. So there you go. I think it's probably those two, but collectively we all just try to get happy, try to get ourselves, you know, in our own little zones. And then, yeah, we're ready to play.
I think that's really important what you say, but we do really be grateful for playing basketball, and obviously congrats to both sides for qualifying for the next round of the Lynch trophy. Brendan, I know you guys got Hemel. I've got the date wrong. Apologies. I've edited the post on the my blog site. What were some of the thoughts when you found out you were playing Hemel? Because that's a big game. What were some of the just conversations in the Solent camp?
Yeah, so of course, if you looked at the second place teams, I think Hemel were probably the strongest option, along with Worthing as well. But I don't know if we were eligible to play Worthing because they're in the same pool. But so we had Hemel penciled as that's one that's probably going to be on the more difficult scale. We're prepared for anyone that's put in front of us. We'll have the same week of preparation. We play them. I think we play them next week anyway. So we'll have now a chance to actually see them beforehand, whereas as the game was meant to have been last weekend, we wouldn't have been able to see that. Would have been sort of a fresh take for this year's team. You know, they've got very talented guys we went up against. You know, Mike, Greg, Bodie's still there, Waleed's still there, Jack Burnell's still there, well coached as well. So we kind of have a great insight into what to expect. But of course, until that week, that game's in the schedule, we'll park it. It's great to see there are opponents. We've still got 2 or 3 league games beforehand to handle first.
Of course, and I was getting questions before the draw to say we hosted it on this channel, which you can watch back, and a few of the questions were like, can teams play each other in the same group? And the order I said it was an open draw, which is quite unique because obviously you don't tend to see that. You tend to have brackets where it's no bias given, because obviously if people pick out balls, you can sort of think, hang on a bit, is that ball cold? Or this sort of usual bias, whereas the tree tends to be quite fair, where you're segregated, it's evenly balanced. But the quarterfinal, I believe, semi-final will be open. So if both you guys go through, you'd potentially play each other in the semis, but obviously one game at a time. Tom, you guys travel to Derby, and obviously with the lead sort of being split, it's going to be a good opportunity if you play Derby, because you won't play as much with North-South. What was some of the reaction when you finally realised it was Derby, because obviously that group took a bit longer to decide than the others?
Yeah, I mean, I think we weren't particularly fussed, I suppose, who we were playing. We're going to have to play good teams to get through to the next round. So I think ultimately, I looked on Google Maps and I saw that Derby was the furthest south. So in that sense, shortest journey. It's probably a good look for us. I think Myerscoug's pretty far up there, and I can't remember Bradford. Love Bradford, but didn't really fancy going in the next few weeks. So, Derby it is, and we'll take that.
I see you smirking, Brendan. I have seen your tweets, but when it's a northern team, you're not the one who fancies that journey. When they said about North-South split, were you like celebrating? Yes, not many trips to Bradford. And what are the challenges for those long trips? Because especially not a double-header game, there's that to consider too. But what are some of the challenges of having that long road trip to go to Bradford or Derby or Liverpool? What are some of the things that peeve you off?
So my tweet in general is double headers already are tough on your body. You want to have rest. You want to be able to get a good night's sleep. You want to have the day off the next day. So it's one thing to have a double header. It's the next thing to have to get on a minibus at 8 a.m. and travel up the motorway while it's freezing cold, it's raining. It's not Bradford specific. I have no problems with Bradford. I think they've actually got a great team there. We've always had any time I've played them, I've had great battles against them. It's just the process
battered sausage and chips is always good, or it used to be anyway.
God, it's just the process of getting up, getting yourself ready again. You probably might have taken a hit the day before on the Saturday game, and off you go to play them at home. In terms of away games, a North-South split. Sorry for the season. It makes sense. I understand why the league has done it. If we're in these tiered systems, if there's breakouts, whatever, I get it. It's interesting to see how it's split. I think if you look at the North versus South just as teams right now, I think we can all agree the South has overall a stronger conference. I don't think there's really a week off now. Not there is weeks off, but I don't think there's a game where a week you can go in and say, oh, this one should be fairly comfortable, even if we would sort of be 80%, 90% performance. Through no fault of other teams. Some teams have recognised there's no relegation. Maybe there's funding issues. University teams normally go through 2 to 3 year cycles of having our first year students, then they get their second and third years to then really make a presence and bond as a team. So how it splits interesting. I think it's definitely going to affect how the table plays out, because let's say it is probably easier for a North team to make it into the top half of the table now. Whereas if it was playing everyone twice, I'm sure there are some teams that are glad they're not playing Solent twice, Worthing twice, Thames Valley twice. Hemel made it into the South as well. Reading are down here. That's 5 games already that teams don't have on their schedule, who are probably thinking, right, now we're making playoffs just through a change of fixtures. That's without even stepping on the court and even having to perform and try and win those games.
Yeah, I thought it was quite an interesting concept. Obviously, Oakland's made the cut north, but like you said, Hemel, Reading made the cut south. And if you look at those teams, on paper from last year. Most of those were top 8 teams, like you're suggesting there, Brendan, like the likes of Hemel, Reading, Worthing, Solent, TBC. They are sort of the clubs that have that, maybe seem on outside in, have a bit extra money, or have the university contacts, or have the US imports who come back year after year. So it's going to be really interesting in terms of the playoffs. As most players in the league, if British basketball have a professional job outside of it, and only just what you were saying actually made me think of this. What do you think the long-term solution is minus COVID? Because most of you guys probably work Monday to Friday, but if you've got a back-to-back weekend, that's really tricky in terms of fitness, but also longevity of career. You don't want to be doing that mid-20s, in late 20s, sort of working 5 days a week, but knowing you've got a lot of games traveling. What, having been in the system, Brendan, what do you think is the solution going forward?
Honestly, it's a difficult one. I have been one of those people that has had the full-time job and then the basketball on the side. So it is secondary. There are sacrifices you have to make. You know, you miss a couple of workouts that you'd love to get in. You miss a couple of gym sessions. You know, you're using annual leave just so you can sleep on a Monday because you got back from Bradford at 11 p.m. You know, it is a different way of life. You know, I see some of my teammates where they get to, you know, all they're here to do is play basketball because, of course, they are good enough to do so. So there's sometimes you feel like you're missing out on the odd workout, the odd treatment to my body, but you've just got to adjust to it really. In terms of how you change that long term, based on Division 1, that's probably not going to change in the near future. If I wanted to change my situation, I would need to find myself a full-time gig, find a different league, a league up, league abroad, if it was possible, to then change my situation, something which I've personally not felt the need to do. I'm quite been very, very happy with how sort of my life and basketball have gone over the last couple of years. But in terms of what the league can do, or from even a team perspective, of course, pay is always going to be a topic, but budgets are budgets. I think it falls more onto players just to find out what they can commit to, what is financially viable for them, and why you're doing what you're doing. If you are accepting or trying to join a team that is in a different region to where you're from, but is paying you the right money, well, is the money worth it? If you're looking to stay home because you want home comfort, so okay, are you going to be happy with how your performance is going to look because you are missing those sessions, because you are perhaps a little less sleep from time to time? It's trade-offs that I think it falls more on players than the league. I think that the fact the league has still been going again through the last 12 months that we've had, I don't think right now we can suddenly expect that financially or amateur to pro status is suddenly going to change in the near future. And that's something I think everyone league-wide needs to recognise and needs to make plans for, really.
Apologies, just like you, Tom. What do you agree with that sort of thing? Sort of like it's every player's own personal situation weighing up how those. Just I think it's hard for the league to sort of make those wide scale changes that sort of adapt to the players' needs, and also, with the season you don't have double headers here and there. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know what you're signing up for at the start of the season, and obviously it's all right to grumble about Newcastle away on a Sunday, but it's going to happen. When you get the schedule at the start of the year and you see it slapped in there, it rolls around pretty quick. So it's just one of those things, like Brendan said, you either change your situation and, you seek becoming a full-time professional somewhere, or you accept it and you crack on. And I think once you make the commitment to do that, you just got to go with it. And I don't think it's ever necessarily going to change, unless basketball or professional basketball works its way up the ladder of professional sports in this country and there's more and more sponsorship and funding thrown at it. If that doesn't happen, we're going to be on that minibus there and back to the north in one day and enjoy yourself. I like a minibus journey, in all honesty. It's a good laugh.
Indeed. And I kind of want to get back to sort of enjoy yourself and positive emotions. So you're both going by car, I assume, to Solent. It's not the long bus journey. last bit about past derby experiences. I know we sort of said a bit about the highlights, but with Nick Lewis tipping the ball to help Worthing. Nick Lewis stealing the ball to get the win for Worthing. But what are some of like the craziest moments where maybe players got lost in the atmosphere, lost in the occasion? What have been some of the moments from your derby recollections where you thought, oh, that happened because it was a derby, maybe out of context of the season? What have been some of the crazy or hyped moments that you guys remember? You look back on Worthing Solent games.
I remember a bit of a wrestling match. I can't remember which game it was. It was at Worthing, whether it was the BBL or the other one. But
I think it's BBL
a
trophy. You talk about
couple of guys got
Alex
into some.
and Travis, I think.
Yeah. Suppose as far as like wild moments or outside of your expectations when you're sprinting up and down, I suppose that one jumps out. Yeah, I would say that wild ending with the game that we mentioned, where when Brendan was playing for us and we won with the whole fumble at the end. Those are the two wildest moments that I can recollect.
I was going to say the same thing. I remember hands being raised at one point and having to separate some people. I think from that Worthing game. The only other one I would say was the playoff final that we had, because as we mentioned, both teams have pretty huge fan bases, and both teams really showed up. It was in Manchester, so we're talking pretty much north to south of the country. Both teams still had their fans going crazy in the game. Not that there was any wild plays or anything crazy that happened, but I remember just the atmosphere of that game and both teams wanting to win it. I think in terms of maybe not as crazy as an altercation, but definitely one that in terms of perhaps emotion, I think ran pretty high for that one.
No, and I didn't want to sort of like get you guys in trouble talking about other things, but it was important. I think sometimes those sort of games they make those occasions. You look at football like the Manchester Arsenal. When these teams come together, sometimes these isolated instances might seem out of character flair because of the nature of them. I mean, it's interesting that it still makes its way in the South Coast here and say relatively quite a friendly relationship. I think for someone who's watched football first or basketball, I feel basketball's a little bit different to football. It's a bit more maybe gentlemanly, like everyone. I think especially where it's such a small community, where everyone knows each other, so it's a bit different. Would that be true, Brendan?
I think we can all admit here that football fans have not put their sport in the best light ever. I'm not talking about the last 2 weeks. I'm talking about ever. There is always some form of issue that is coming up with football fans. And don't get wrong, this country bleeds football. You are born and here is your club. You will support them until you die. Okay, I don't understand why. Personally, I think football is a fine sport. I still think it gets way too much resource than it actually needs. If you look at basketball, particularly British basketball fans and the community, it's driven for the right reasons. There isn't anyone that's making a power move for money. There are, and Tom's actually a testament to this. Tom's, previous business and work in basketball in the community. He's just out there helping kids pick up a basketball for the first time and dribble it. And now we see those kids, 4 or 5 years later, down at one of the local parks, obviously a bit taller, a bit stronger. And now they're out here, having the time of their lives, joining local league teams, national league teams, regional teams. I think just the place that basketball comes from as a community is far, far different from other sports. I believe it's starting to get the recognition for that. I think the government, I think sponsors are now seeing the potential of the sport. But if you compare it to something like football, I mean, it's not a comparison I want to make. I wouldn't want to suddenly say the only way basketball gets bigger is to have fans like football. You can keep yourselves way over there. Go support your clubs how you want to support them. If you join the basketball community, you're going to support it the way that we are supporting it right now. And that is very much a togetherness and a community.
I say hats off to you, Tom. What you're doing behind the scenes, BTM, then the young guys on, helping them with their lives, giving them opportunity is very, very good. And I think Brendan's right. A lot of people like yourselves are working hard behind the scenes to help. Like for me as a fan, when I first started following basketball, it's something you don't instantly realise till you learn a bit more. But there's so many hard people working behind the scenes to help the community as a whole, and I think that's really admirable. And it is totally separate to football. So I definitely see what Brendan's saying, but we shouldn't ditch that because it is totally opposite. Looking towards this weekend's games, I didn't know if you guys had thoughts with the other games. Obviously, we've got Derby Leicester being the first game tomorrow at 12 lunchtime tip-off, and Nottingham Bradford and Newcastle Loughborough similar times yourself. Tom, I thought maybe start with the midday game of Derby Leicester. What are your thoughts about that game?
It looks like Leicester are quite a difficult team to play against this year, based on, for the most part. I know they've got Henry's coming now as a big, but when I did watch some of their game against Loughborough, I saw they had pretty much 5 point guards on the court at one time. I saw Kane, who's awesome, and I got a lot of time for Kane King. I saw him having to match up with Harrison Gamble at one point. But at the same time, it looked kind of awkward for Loughborough to play against that. If you're trying to guard 5 point guards with bigs in the game, it's very difficult. So, yeah, I mean, Derby are obviously tough. We played against them, and they're a good team. So you would expect them to win that game. But at the same time, you never count Leicester out. They play hard, and Carl coaches them well. So,
Brendan, if you'd like to add about that matchup, or your sort of thoughts ahead of that one.
I think on Derby side, Derby looking strong again this year. Of course, had a finish near the top half of the table. Did finish top half of the table last year. I think they've got a lot of size and positions now. They've got Lascelles back at the point guard. They could pretty much run 5 guys that are 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". I think they've got a nice balance. They've got, of course, Blake Bowman, Charlie as well on the junior end. Of course, Malcolm always in MVP conversations. Ollie Stanley as a British guy, leading in the paint. So I think Derby are always a tough team to play against, just due to size, due to being well coached. The Leicester's end, I think you always know what you're signing up for when you play Leicester. You're going to feel the fact you've played a game against Leicester. They're going to run at you. It's going to be physical. Martin Gale is going to probably make 5 or 6 threes in your game, despite you having a hand up. I think that's going to be quite an interesting matchup. It'll probably be whoever isn't in foul trouble, I think, probably wins that one.
Yeah, like you say, Tom, Leicester has some. Even though they may have a bad sort of win-loss record at the moment, a lot of the games have been quite close, and they put up a big fight, and teams have to play quite hard to play them. Next up is Nottingham Bradford. What your thoughts about those two teams are. Both of them sort of had mismatched games, but what are your thoughts?
I'll be honest, I haven't really seen Nottingham play. I think their team looks pretty different this year, apart from Matt Ward-Hibbert and who's the other returning player?
They got Delaney Powell.
That's it, Delaney. Yeah. Yep. But I mean, I love Bradford, man. I've got a lot of time for Bradford. I love the fact that Coach Mellors has kept that group there for such a long time, and guys like Salks and Fetsky and Albert, of course. I remember playing against Albert as a junior, and he has been, the toughest dude from day one. So I'm going to go with Bradford because I really like the team. And I don't know much about Nottingham, so that's why I'm going Bradford.
Brendan, what are your thoughts about that matchup?
Quite similar, I think. I think Nottingham side, I haven't seen enough of them to cast an opinion, if I'm honest. And the Bradford side, if there's one team in this league that I feel just probably deserves more success than they've had, it's been Bradford. They've always had Salks, Fetsk, Albert's now there. Dave Walsh proved last year that he's an elite shooter. Mellor's always got them scheming well, adjusting well in games. Again, I think he's one of always a coach of the year kind of candidate as well. And it's probably one of the reasons why I don't like a Sunday afternoon in Bradford, because you're going to walk in and that you're going to have these kind of guys. They're going to play physical. They're going to play aggressive. They're going to be loud. They're going to share the ball, and they're all just going to excel in their role. So I think in general, if anyone playing against Bradford, you just have to bring your A game to beat them. They're not going to make clumsy mistakes. They're not going to make effort mistakes. You are going to have to outwork them and outthink them. Or they're going to be right there in the game or pushing a lead on you.
I think that's very fair. And I always feel like Bradford are one of the teams that maybe underappreciated, maybe because of not much following up there, or maybe, guys like myself in Southampton don't see him firsthand, can't report him as much. Obviously, a fan base, not a player. I'd love to break down the squad a bit more, so I think they definitely deserve a bit more of a shout out, but maybe they get. And my guys often say it's one of the premier defenders in the league. What is it about him that makes him a hard guy to go up against when you're trying to get a bucket or find a player? What's their individual strengths as players?
I think Albert, he's obviously very strong. He's low to the ground and he's just tough. He's like off the court, he's a great guy, all the time in the world for Albert. But when it comes to playing him on the court, like Brendan just said about Leicester, you feel it. You can feel when you've played against Albert. Every time you cut into the key, there's a forearm there. On every rebound, he's boxing you out hard. And same applies to all of Bradford. The way they attack the glass. I think across the board, Bradford have some really tough dudes, and that's why they're in every single game that they play. They don't always have the deepest bench or necessarily the most talent, but they're well coached and they're just, they're tough up there in the north. So that's, I think that sums up Bradford.
Yeah, they definitely got some Yorkshire grit about them, and definitely will be up there with the north-south split. The next game is Newcastle-Loughborough. I think both these sides have surprised people to some extent. Newcastle upgrading their squad for the Lynch trophy, and maybe Carl Jimenez having more of a role, sort of accelerating, having triple-double performances. What are your thoughts in terms of that matchup? I'll start with Tom.
Newcastle, again, I'd say I've watched to the same amount as Nottingham. I don't really know their guys. Obviously, I know Naz because I coached him when he was younger, and he was with us on Worthing for a few years. I don't know the situation there. I'd love to see Naz playing more, but again, I don't know what the situation is there, and hopefully, he gets in there and gets some burn tomorrow. Loughborough, obviously, Coach Jerem always has those guys very well organised. They play good team basketball, and Carl really coming into his own this year. The way he's packing the stats is amazing. So I couldn't say who's going to win that one because I don't know enough about Newcastle, but I'm sure it'll be a good game. Where is that one?
That's at Newcastle. It's a later game. It's at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Hopefully it's streamed on YouTube, so you'll be able to watch that.
So if I had to choose one, I'll go with Newcastle then because of the drive up there. But I don't know enough about the teams to give an educated.
That's right. It's just discuss teams. We spoke about a few players. Brendan, have you got any thoughts about that matchup? I know you guys are very focused on your own team's feed, and it's quite busy to watch every team's game. And like myself, who sort of watches them all the whole weekend because I'm not actually playing in the game, so I've got that time, and I work Monday to Fridays.
Yes, we've played both of them so far this season already. I think both play similar styles. Their main positives for both teams is that their team performance is better than the individuals they have. So although if you look on Loughborough's side, they've got, of course, Kyle, they've got Harrison Gamble, they've got Jonas. They play a style that means everyone that comes on the court can contribute and everyone knows their role. Everyone's unselfish. And same for Newcastle. They run a lot of action through their bigs. Their guards, you'd say, are more of their scoring threats, let's say. So that makes you again have to play them honest. If you've got a vet like Charles Smith on your team, and it's a home game as well, so perhaps again fresher legs being at home, not traveling down the country, you can expect him to perform and contribute. I think that's going to be a good one to watch, definitely from a neutral standpoint, just to see those style of plays. I think those two teams play the right, if there's a right or wrong way, but they play the right style of basketball that you can enjoy. I'm probably going to give it though to Loughborough. I think, Kyle's performance lately, Harrison Gamble, I think as well, doesn't really get spoke about too much, but I think he's always around, top performances, top scorers every game. Jonas as well, always out there, hustling hard and plays his role to perfection. So I'm probably going to give that one to Loughborough.
And quickly on the House of Gamble, so I noticed last season, like I was looking at individual performance against teams, and he was the only player to get 30 points versus Solent. Where would you rate him in terms of the individuals you guys faced last season? Was he up there, or was it more fact that other guys gave him the space? And who were some of the tough guys from the league to face?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. He did score above his average against us. Part of that was to do with our scheme. You have to give up something against teams. We go in each week and say, right, if we take away X and they do more of Y, we're increasing our chance to win. Now, him shooting wide open threes is not perhaps how the scheme was meant to go. We still had adjustments we could make, but in general, there was a few parts of the schemes or few parts of their action that we were trying to blow up. So, for example, last year we wanted to keep Alex Roberts out of the key. We wanted to keep him playing one-on-one as much as possible, and not help too much. Again, there was times there where clearly Harrison managed to find a couple of gaps, a couple of opportunities where we fell asleep. In terms of key players last year, my mind's gone blank. I feel like last season was forever ago. I'll definitely say, again, that's the easiest ones to say, are players like Zaire and Alex Woomy are always tough to play against. Guys that know their game inside and out. And even if you scheme against them, like Alex last year, was still going to shoot the lights out. And everyone knew when he caught the ball, the shot's going up. And he's still, again, making 4 or 5 threes a game comfortably. Zaire still managing to get his crafty, still hitting a 360 layup every single game. It's coming in the fourth quarter, yet here he goes, drives right, 360 to his left, scores. I'm struggling to remember the rest of the league from last season now. You might have to drop a few names.
I can totally agree, but just to say from a personal standpoint, I'm scratching my head thinking, why is it December already? It doesn't feel like it. It feels like it should be like April, May. This year's gone fast. Tom, same for you, maybe like from this season or maybe last season, who are some of the tough guys that individually pose the most problems to Worthing?
Yeah, I mean, I know Taylor Johnson always gives us buckets from Thames Valley. He's very tough to guard. Who else? I'm trying to think. I mean, Mike Williams from Hemel is obviously a great scorer and can score in bunches. I'd say Taylor and Mike are the ones that really stand out for me the most. Taylor especially, he's super crafty. Like he can shoot the ball, he can get to the basket, and obviously he's not the greatest athlete, so he's a little unassuming at times. Like you don't think he's going to get the shot off, or he cuts really well. So he's a smart player with a really good skill set. I know personally, if I'm matched up with him, that's a tough night for me for sure.
Definitely, you picked probably two for Premier straws for the league. Brendan, was it the same for you guys? Were those two sort of? Now you sort of thought about it, where they were sort of playing, that was a tough game against Michael. Was a tough game.
Definitely against those two. They're persistent scorers. You take away one option, they're going to go straight to their counter. They're the most difficult guys to guard. If there's people that they have a go-to move, you stop it, they might become passive. But people that are like, no, you do this, I'm doing that, straight off the back of it. They're tough. I think for Thames Valley, I'll definitely add in Hakeem Siller as well. He's getting 20 points, 15 rebounds every single game. Doesn't matter who's in front of him. Doesn't matter what team they're facing. His effort, his energy, any catch at the high post is going to end up in pretty much a score or a foul. And when you surround him with shooters like they have this year, so they've of course added Lewis Champion now. Seth, I forgot his last name. Seth was of course MVP of the week last week.
Yes, yeah.
So you're talking about add Blaine there. You've got 4 elite perimeter guards. You put Siller in the middle. There's not much you can do to stop that. If that lineup's on the court in front of you. So yeah, I think add Silla to the mix on top of those two as well.
Yeah, it seems a juggernaut side, and obviously both Hemel and TVC are in the same segment as you are, in the same conference, sort of the South. So it's going to be some interesting games, and I appreciate both coming on. Especially, I know Tom, you've been coaching. Brendan, you probably had a busy week with work and trade, so I really appreciate you guys coming on the show. Final thing, with that last question in mind, Tom, who are some maybe the Solent guys, but maybe don't get talked about much, but they're difficult to play against, and maybe why they've been difficult in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I think, as you know, with Solent, they have so many weapons and they exploit those in so many different ways that, any one of their top 7, 8 guys could put up good numbers. But, as you can tell from the fact that when we had Brendan, we were at this certain level, and now we don't have Brendan. Solent are at that level. Obviously, Brendan is one of those guys, and I'm not just saying that because he's in the other room. But Brendan is one of those guys who glues it all together, and he's also someone who can put up 20 plus points and give you 12 rebounds and give you assists as well. So I think you look at Solent and you look at the obvious guys of Travis and Ian who are going to get their numbers, but again, with guys like Brendan and Andre. And a whole host of other players, it's very, very tough to guard, and they play such a system that allows all their guys to flourish in that way. So, but yeah, Brendan is someone we definitely need to be looking out for, and yeah, we'll see what happens.
Indeed, it's going to be a very exciting game to be live on the Basketball England's channels at NBL Live. Brendan's final word, like what Tom was saying, who's some of what are the problems of the guys maybe don't get spoken about, but are equally as bad. So my voice goes, there's a reader time to close off. Equally as valuable as a team, because I think sometimes we always focus on the player who gets the most stats, but it's not fair. It's a team sport, and the other guys also do an equally valuable job.
I think if you look at the games Worthing have won, it's when their third or fourth scorers have performed well. So you know that Cam's going to get 20. You know Zaire is capable of getting 20. When Max or Tom or Ish have then managed to step up and get teens to 20 points a game, they've proved very dangerous, because now you have to take your eyes away from perhaps the primary threats to focus on those guys. Not just to return the compliments, but I've had Tom as a teammate for a couple of years and played against him as well, and I know that his kind of character helps players get going, particularly when things get tough. You need those experienced guys. You need those level heads that, team goes on a quick run against you. Right, what we're going to do to solve it? In a timeout when coach isn't perhaps there yet ready to talk, who's going to give that speech or idea? So yeah, again, not to state the obvious, but definitely I'd put Tom at the top of that list of people that probably isn't in the preview for the game on the website, but is someone that's going to have an impact. I'll probably get to match up against, so we'll see what I can do to limit his points, limit his impact on the game.
Indeed, it's going to be a very exciting game. I think John Hobbs and Tossin from board are supposed to be commentators. That's going to be exciting commentary, but also the action on the court will be equally exciting. Again, thank you both for coming on. I appreciate it's late and you guys probably got be up early to get ready for the game tomorrow. All the best, and I look forward to watching the game tomorrow. Stay safe and chat soon, guys.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, cheers, Chris.
Appreciate you having us on. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.